it was, you know, kind of was just thrown into the den of wolves, you know, because I didn't really know what I was getting into. So I agreed to do it because my manager at the time asked me to, and so I went up to Novato, in the wine country up in the hills there, the orchards and everything, where Varney's studio was. And I didn't know anything about it, and I showed up, and there was this band there, but they were all kind of dirty and famished, and they were working in the orchards picking fruit and stuff. So it was Varney, I guess what he did was he'd make his bands work in the orchards, and that's how, you know, they would sort of pay their rent, I guess, so to speak. I'm not sure the arrangement they had, but anyways, these guys would be toiling in the fields all day, then have to go in and record, but he'd like, you know, it'd be like 18 hours a day, you know. It was like indentured servitude, and it was Racer X, I found out later.
So here's a great question from James Edwards at JamesBayo1. Hopefully I got that right, your last name, man. He wants you to tell us about the legend of the S.I.R, S-I.R, Studio Instrument Rentals stock number 39 amp that you used. Yeah, that supposedly Slash, after you used on the first leg of Under Lock and Key, you returned it and Slash got it and recorded Appetite for Destruction on it, and then it ended up getting kept by Slash. It didn't get returned or something like that, and then it got stolen and got returned. But was there really that amp, that ultra modern one that you try to get the sound of?
Yeah, and this has actually happened to me and probably other people quite a bit. Where you show up at a rehearsal place, you know, in New York or L.A. or somewhere, or a studio, and they have some instrument there or an amplifier that's just insane, right? And just like, wait a minute, this is better than everything I own. I got to own this. I got to buy it from you. And they never sell this stuff, you know. I mean, very rarely, you know. Right. So I tried like hell to buy it off of them, and they just, no, we don't sell. So, you know, and in retrospect, I should have. Yeah, well, what I ended up doing was renting something like that for years. So you pay, you know, whatever X amount of dollars per day or week for 2 years. You know what you end up spending for this thing? And then you give it back and you made it valuable, and they can sell it to some other fool for $25,000 because you made it famous.
Right, exactly.
Which is exactly what happened with the Purple Marshall that I had, which is my other favorite Marshall from that era.
Wow.
But it was Aspen Pittman's, which just recently passed. So.
Sorry to hear that. And you also had the RG100. I think it was the RG100 Randall's. I say it wrong in the RH. Gosh, what's the name for it?
RG100, yeah.
Yeah. It's also a dime bag plate too. Right?
Yes. Well, we used to tour a lot with those guys. We used to do all the Cardi circuit in Texas, and this was when Dimebag was, you know, he's more of a Eddie hair shred guy. Right. He was great though, you know, and he was like, but they didn't have Phil.
Okay, right.
They had another singer, and they were a little more hair, like we all were back then. Right. And but he wasn't using the Randalls, and we toured. We had the Randalls, and I think that's when he picked up on them. And a number of other people used them, and I still have one, and they're great. They really are great, but they're unique. Yeah, and they're kind of they're legacy solid state, but they're like they're a high quality solid state, if there's such a thing. Yeah. You know, I mean, it really has a unique sound that's very. You remember when we designed it, Gary Sunda and I at Randall, we'd put my favorite 50-watt plexi or metal panel Marshalls up on the scope, and he would just mimic the scope of the tonal scope.
Wow.
And you know, it's never going to be tube. It's going to be different. It wasn't worse or better than. It was just different, but it was just a really unique sound. So that was Tooth and Nail. Tooth and Nail was all that.
What's that amp? And you can get great deals on those for like $150 a head. I've seen. They're like $600. Yeah, just something like that, right?
Way too expensive. Don't buy them.
Absolutely.
I'm going to corner the market. I'm going to be like the Hunt brothers of RG100.
I got your answer for that. This one comes from Joel Dominguez, which is at Storm_Shredder. He wants to know, how was it playing and recording with Tony MacAlpine on this shred opus, Tears of Sahara and The Vision? Which you were on both of those. Those were instrumental tracks.
Tears of Sahara came out better than The Vision. It was, you know, kind of was just thrown into the den of wolves, you know, because I didn't really know what I was getting into. So I agreed to do it because my manager at the time asked me to, and so I went up to Novato, in the wine country up in the hills there, the orchards and everything, where Varney's studio was, and I didn't know anything about it. And I showed up, and there was this band there, but they were all kind of dirty and famished, and they were working in the orchards picking fruit and stuff. So it was Varney, I guess what he did was he'd make his bands work in the orchards, and that's how, you know, they would sort of pay their rent, I guess, so to speak. I'm not sure the arrangement they had, but anyways, these guys would be toiling in the fields all day, then have to go in and record, but he'd like, you know, it'd be like 18 hours a day, you know. It was like indentured servitude, and it was Racer X, I found out later.
Really?
Yeah. So Scott Travis, the big
Right.
tall drummer guy, and he's in Judas Priest. I remember seeing him there. And I forget who else. But anyways, it was all those guys. Boulez?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, he was there.
he was the original
So it's this
stuff
like
there.
big barn thing that they built a studio, and then a couple of houses where they would sleep. You know, they had cots and stuff, and then
It's like a shred camp.
yeah, but you have to work. It was like a working shred camp.
Yeah,
but
shred in the fields and
but
then shred on
everywhere
guitar.
they go like who's who? You know, they go, well, Varney's coming. I go, who's this Varney guy? They go, well, yeah, he's the kind of the head, the slave owner. Really.
Yeah.
So he's coming. So we see this cloud of dust coming down this dirt road, and they go, oh, here he comes, here he comes. They get all scared and nervous and go scurry off into the orchards, and he'd drive up in this gold Mercedes and get out, and then he would have these boxes of like stale cookies and
Only the best.
yeah, for the guys, and the guys would all come out, you know, because they were hungry, right? Because they've been working all day, and he would just throw it down on the ground, you know, pull it out of his trunk and throw it on the ground.
Oh.
And it was insane. I was like, is this real or what? You know, and so this.
I'm actually debating this is a real story right now. Is this true?
Yes, this is
Okay.
true. This is how Shrapnel built his empire. Yeah, yeah.
He's a smart man. He's a businessman.
Yes. So,
Got to put the cookies on the floor.
so I try. Look, it's not my business. I'm just here to do what I'm here to do. So I just shut my eyes and ears. I go in and try to focus and find out that I didn't know that this guy Varney was the producer, but because he just sat there and he was really funny. But he would just tell jokes and he would tell, you know, anecdotes and stories, and I'm like, you know, I would really like to get to work, you know, because we couldn't get anything done because this guy just kept cracking jokes, which were very funny jokes, but it's just like, so he left for a second, and I just asked the engineer and Tony, I said, hey, listen, can we get rid of that guy because we can't get anything done? So I ended up kicking the producer. I didn't know he was the producer, but we kicked him out. He was not allowed back in the studio, and then we got it done. We did the Tears, you know, the Vision and Tears.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then let's see, I did a record called Furious George with him, which is covers, all covers. ZZ Top, Zeppelin, Robin Trower, Hendrix, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then I had another record called Souls of We that was on his label
Yes.
with London LeGrand. Anyways.
So you